In this video, I'm going to be showing you 3 reasons why your biceps are not growing and teaching you some simple techniques that you're going to be able to use to accelerate your bicep growth. And we're going to get right into it. But first, if you are new around here, my name is Dale and I make weekly videos based off of improving your fitness and health. So if you're interested in either building muscle or losing body fat, please hit the subscribe button below. So the first mistake we're going to talk about is using bad form. So there's more than one reason why using bad form is going to be detrimental to your bicep growth, with the obvious one being higher risk of injury. But the reason we're going to be focusing on for this video specifically is actually bad form leading to less recruitment of the actual muscle fibers in the bicep. So we know the bicep allows for elbow flexion. So obviously how you grow your biceps is by doing bicep curls. The curl can be broken down into 3 separate phases. You have the bottom phase or the stretch phase, the middle phase, which is the one that most people train, and the top phase or the concentric phase. Now, when most people use bad form, they're doing it on either a dumbbell curl or a barbell curl or an easy bar, where they're completely blowing past the bottom phase of the motion, and a lot of the times they're not even utilizing the top or concentric phase in any way, shape, or form. So really the only phase of the 3 that is actually being trained is that middle phase of the curl. Now your fix here is very simple, and that is going to be to focus on the entire range of motion through the rep. Now I understand you don't want to hyperextend your elbow, right, by going all the way down, but go 9/10 of the way down before you come back up to really control the weight. So think about it as a bench press. If you were to just drop the weight from the top to the bottom, you're not going to get the chest activation through the whole thing, and you have a very good chance of injuring yourself versus controlling the weight all the way down. A curl is going to be the same way, where you're going to want to control the rep all the way up and then control that rep all the way down. This is going to eliminate those weak points in the movement and is actually going to improve your form over time by increasing your strength. If you want to utilize cheat reps, if you keep your back flat, there's no problem with using a little cheat rep at the end of a set to get maybe 1 or 2 more reps out of it. As long as you're controlling your weight on the way down, you should be fine. So how you would train the stretched phase of the curl is by using a preacher curl or like a seated dumbbell curl, where your arms are totally stretched at the bottom of the motion. This is going to place a lot of stress at the bottom third of the motion and is going to make sure that that is the hardest part of the lift, and is going to be getting easier as you get it closer to the top. Something important to note when training the stretch phase of the curl is that you're not going to want to use momentum at all. So on a preacher curl or a seated dumbbell curl, you don't want to be swinging the weight. You want to be really stopping at the bottom and then curling up from there. You don't want to bounce the rep off the bottom just to get the momentum to bring it back to the top. When doing exercises involving the stretch phase, a lot of the time you're going to want to pick a lighter weight, just because it is a very easy part of the rep to cheat on when you're doing a normal bicep curl. And if you're having trouble growing your biceps for this reason, it's likely something that you're already cheating on, and it's going to be weaker than that middle portion. So in order to train the top or the concentric portion of the curl, you're going to want to keep in mind that the bicep does not only attach at the elbow, but also the shoulder joint as well. Why that is important to know is that when you're training the top or the concentric portion of the curl, you're going to want to use a technique that is going to utilize a little bit of shoulder flexion. Some exercises that are good for this are a spider curl or a curl on a low cable, where your elbows actually start off behind your body. And what you want to do is you want to curl up just like you normally would, staying nice and controlled, and then lift your elbows a little bit so you can really squeeze at that top portion. If you've never trained this way before, and just to understand what it feels like, put your arm at your side like you would for a normal curl, get into the middle of the curl position and squeeze where it would be the top of the motion. Now I want you to take your elbow and drive it up a little bit more and squeeze as hard as you can in the bicep. You're likely going to feel a ton of tension at the top of that motion. That's what we're going for here when training that concentric phase of the curl. So mistake number 2 is that your rep ranges and your weight choices are just not good when involving the biceps. So keep in mind, your biceps are a muscle, just like your chest, your back, or your legs are, but it's oftentimes trained very differently. And what I mean by that is people focus on strength with the bigger muscles. They don't really focus on strength with the smaller muscles like the biceps or the triceps or the calves. And partially that makes sense, but you're gonna need to overload as well. Speaking of other muscles, let me know if you want to see me talk about any other muscles in this sort of fashion in the comments below. So I understand that your biceps are smaller muscles than your chest, your back, your legs, But muscle growth is still stimulated in the same fashion, where progressive overload over time is going to force that muscle to grow. So you're going to need your rep ranges and weight selection to present a challenge to the muscle to stimulate that growth, just like any other muscle group. Now, I'm not saying to go do sets of 3 or 5 on a barbell curl. That's a very good way to get hurt, and we don't want to get injured. But what I am saying is that your sets of 30 plus reps are just going to be a little bit overkill. So keeping what I just said about injury prevention in mind, I would avoid lifting very heavy for a very low amount of reps. What I would recommend is sets of 10 to 15 reps so you could train a little bit heavier. Now, noting that the biceps are obviously smaller than something like the chest, you're not going to want to really go super heavy on this. So make sure when you pick your weights that you can control all 10 or all 15 reps. If you go much lower than that, say in like a 6 to 8 range, the likelihood that you're really controlling the movement all the way through is going to drop the heavier the weight gets. Also keeping that in mind, don't pick a weight that you can do for 30 reps and then just stop at 15. That's not doing anything for growth. That's not going anywhere near technical failure. And that's what you're looking for when you're picking a weight. So keeping the 10 to 15 rep range in mind, pick a weight that you're going to fail right around there. And what I mean by failure is technical failure. So once your form starts to break, that's when you should call it quits. Don't bother trying to squeeze out other reps and risking getting injured. Many people who choose super high rep ranges like 25 plus for the biceps generally are limited by their grip strength, and their forearms tend to give out before their biceps do. So you think you're doing a really, really hard set to failure when your biceps have another 5-10 reps in them, but your forearms give out first. Again, the same thing goes for people who pick like 10 to 15 different bicep movements in a workout. That's way overkill. I would suggest 3 bicep movements per session with 3 sets to that 10 to 15 rep range, and you should be perfectly fine as long as you're getting close to technical failure in those sets. And your third biggest mistake is going to be not focusing on time under tension. So a lot of the time with the biceps, what people focus on is just getting through the sets. You know you have 12 reps to do, so you blow through that 12 reps as quickly as possible. Why do people do this? Well, it's way easier. So you'll notice if you focus on time under tension, maybe make each rep 3 seconds long. So 1 second on the way up, 2 seconds on the way down. You're going to have a harder time, and you're probably going to have to drop the weight. Because the curl is such a short movement to begin with, coupled with the fact that your bicep is not going to be as strong as your back or your legs, is going to make time under tension critical in terms of stimulating muscle growth in that bicep. So a lot of people know that time under tension is going to stimulate muscle group, and they still don't do it. Why is that? Because it's hard. And your ego gets in the way because you have to be lifting a heavy weight to impress everybody around you. Nobody wants to be spotted in the gym using any dumbbells that are less than 30 pounds. Trust me, if you slow down the reps, choose better rep ranges and a better weight selection, and train all 3 phases of the curl, keeping form in mind, you're gonna be able to accelerate the bicep growth in no time. If you learned anything of value and enjoy these straight to the point fitness videos, then leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what muscle you wanna see me talk about next. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.